So what do you get when you combine Vampire Survivors with Breakout? Well, you get one of the most addicting games of the year. No small feat just looking at what came out the last couple of months. BallxPit, or is it BallPit? Oh no, I'm starting to get Hunter x Hunter or Hunter x Hunter flashbacks.
BallxPit.
Okay, good, moving on. BallxPit has that deceptively simple premise that hides far more depth than you'd think, pulling you in for that, just one more run feel, and suddenly it's 2 hours later and your dog has left a present for you on the floor because you forgot to take them out for a walk. Don't worry buddy, I'll take you right after this run. BallxPit plays a lot like Vampire Survivors, but with a few unique twists that freshen things up. For one, enemies all spawn at the top of the screen in rows and slowly move down towards you, and if you don't kill them before they reach the bottom, that's when they attack you for a lot of damage. This already leads you to feeling a lot more pressure as the increasingly tough and numerous enemies literally press down on you. No matter how good you are at dodging, once they get to the bottom of the screen, they will hit you. And I really dug that pressure, that metaphorical fire under my butt that kept me locked in even when I felt I had a good build going. Because there were plenty of times I thought I had a great build going, only for the screen to slowly fill with enemies because I just didn't think ahead enough for my build or didn't aim my shots well enough. You deal with enemies by shooting them with a variety of little balls and you actually have to aim them. The game does have an auto fire mode, but you do still have to aim, and it's very important that you know where to place your shots. Unlike Vampire Survivors, it does require an element of skill. There are plenty of times where the columns of enemies were getting awfully close to the bottom, but because I was able to angle the shot between the walls and the enemies, or between two columns of enemies, allowing the shots to bounce back and forth, hitting them multiple times, it saved me, and the run went on. It's not like the game is only for pro gamers with expert level skills and reflexes. It's not, of course it's not. But shot placement does matter. Knowing how to build your character is still the most important part. You can 100% get to a point where the game practically plays itself, or literally plays itself actually, and this is super satisfying to do. But early to mid run, you do need to put some thought into what and where you're shooting, and that can get you through some tough runs where you maybe didn't get the god rolls you needed. I would say that if Vampire Survivors felt a little bit simple or boring to you, you should still give this a shot. The simple act of having to aim engaged me a little bit more, just enough to prevent me from completely checking out and getting swiftly addicted to the build variety and gameplay loop. It is just so fun to shoot at an angle between enemies to get above them and just watch your shots bounce all around the top of the screen and just clear out entire hordes of enemies, all while sucking up the countless little crystals that act as XP and you level up. Because this game is also a roguelite, and every one you get not just normal balls, but spiky ones that cause bleed, or fireballs, or ones that shoot lasers. And these do kind of affect how you want to play. The lasers work great by shooting them between enemies to ping pong around because every hit activates the laser, but some have piercing, so for those you want to shoot at an angle and bounce off the wall behind enemies to hit as many as possible. So this did get me to think about and adjust my playstyle a bit, but the coolest part of the game is how you can fuse and evolve the different balls. You can combine and evolve the different abilities with each other and very quickly create absolutely ridiculous powers, like combine the fireball with the spectral ball, so now not only do you set enemies on fire, but it also pierces enemies, so that no baddies may escape thy flame. And sometimes you can just keep combining abilities, building them up with more and more stuff, making them even stronger. Like one time I combined one of the laser abilities with ice so that it shot freezing lasers, but then I combined that with the brood ball, which has a chance to split into a bunch of smaller balls. So when I combined it with the ice laser, it meant it would split, and then all of those tiny balls would also have a chance to also shoot freezing lasers. So the screen would just fill with all of these lasers every now and then. You make your build right and the screen can just be filled with a cacophony of stuff, but it's your stuff, and more importantly, it's destroying your enemies. And combining abilities is not only important because it can create powerful new ones, and it's fun, but because it also frees up one of the 4 precious slots for another new ball, meaning it allows you to get even more bullshit to throw at your enemies, and potentially combine with your other abilities. Every run really felt like I would discover some weird and powerful new fusion or evolution. It helps that evolving 2 abilities doesn't really end things, you can just, continue adding on to it. Like I even made a laser nuke once, by first combining the iron ball with a fireball to make a bomb, then bomb with a gas ball to create a nuke, then fuse that with the laser ball, giving me an ability that would literally nuke everything within 3 seconds, poison anything that didn't die, and just for fun, shot a laser at anything else in the row. Because I mean, why not? This game really does just go yes and sometimes, and I love it. It just revels in this ridiculousness. The combinations kind of feel like when you were playing pretend as a little kid and you just make up powers and abilities, and then you and your friends would just keep trying to one-up each other until you were all throwing out like the Sun Cannon Destroyer Beam Blast, but Here it doesn't end with someone complaining that that's too overpowered, or claiming they have a shield that specifically blocks that. No, you can't block that, Derek. It destroys suns. Me and Derek don't talk much anymore, but I digress. There's also a ton of characters to play, all with their own unique hook to them. Like, one character is actually two people who shoot in opposite directions, making you really think about what angle you're shooting and what you need to deflect off of. Another has a big shield that you can bounce your own shots off of and get a damage boost, encouraging you to be a little bit more mobile, running around to deflect that one really powerful shot while also trying to dodge enemies and aim your other shots. And you even eventually get the ability to bring two characters to level at once, combining their unique traits. I honestly sat there thinking about which two characters would pair well with each other, or how, if I bring these two guys, the balls they start with can be evolved together so I can get a really powerful ability out of the gate, or how they can make up for each other's weaknesses. For example, there was this one character whose shots came from the top of the screen instead of the character themselves, so I'd often get overwhelmed because new enemies that spawned would block my shots with no way to hit the enemies closer to my character or the bottom of the screen, besides getting extremely powerful build to power through them. So I combined them with another character who starts with piercing to make up for that. There's honestly a lot of build variety just with those characters, let alone all of the fusions and evolutions on top of that. Another small change that I like to the Vampire Survivors formula is that levels actually have an end. You're not just going on and on forever until you get overwhelmed or get bored. They actually have a satisfying build up to a boss with two mini bosses to fight on the way, and it actually gave me something to work towards every level. And the bosses themselves were all pretty memorable and fun to fight. I just liked seeing what they would be and what their gimmick was, from a giant skeleton that had you bouncing shots off the walls to hit it in the back, to a giant snake with sweeping lasers and poison attacks. But bosses were actually kind of easier than the rest of their respective level because the boss isn't on a time limit like everything else. Because most of the level is technically on a time limit, because as enemies slowly move down towards you, once they hit the bottom, they automatically attack, and you can very easily be overwhelmed once that starts happening. But that's not the case for bosses. They don't slowly move towards the bottom so long as you're able to dodge their bullet hell-esque attack patterns. You have all the time you could want. I never died to a boss. I died plenty of times on the way there, but never to the bosses themselves. Bosses felt less like a final test of your understanding of that level and its enemies' unique traits and how to exploit them, or to see if your build is in order. It was more like a big flashy set piece to overcome as a fun capstone to the level, and it always was. Despite never challenging me, the bosses were always memorable. And between those levels, there is some fun base building element in the game that has a really fun twist to it. You unlock new buildings by finding blueprints during runs, and building them with wheat, stone, and wood. The twist is that to gather those resources, you have to shoot your characters, kind of like in the main game, and your characters then bounce around your base, gathering from whatever they pass over. This is also how you build buildings. Your characters have to hit them. It's a cute little minigame that initially had me thinking how to lay everything out, carefully place my shots to maximize my resources, bouncing them off of buildings as they pass another resource or something like that. And not every building necessarily gives you some sort of benefit when you bounce characters off of them. Houses, for example, that unlock new characters just have to be built on your base to unlock the character, but afterwards are just obstacles that could potentially block your shot from gathering farms or something, or maybe you use them to deflect your shots off of. But eventually I realized you can kind of just make a box. At some point I had a bunch of buildings I needed to build, so I just made a dead-end alleyway out of them, and fired all of my characters down and built like 3 or 4 buildings in one go. Then I realized I could just do the same with resources, placing my farms, forests, and rocks right in front of where I'd shoot, and surrounding them with other buildings to trap them in, basically guaranteeing I'd hit all of them. And it was pretty easy too, because the game allows you to just drag your mouse over as many buildings as you want and move them all in one solid block, so it became trivial to just move my resource setup in and out when I needed it. But my main issue isn't really how easy it is to exploit. This isn't a city builder, who cares, but I always felt the fun of building a base is customizing it to make it look cool. I want to lay it out in my style, like maybe make the area over here my farm area and put some houses to make a little town next to it with a few forests here and there, make a little town square and put near the market, down the street from the school. I didn't really feel like I should do that. The unique twist of firing my characters to build stuff and gather resources makes it almost antithetical to making a custom base in your style, because it almost necessitates building for function above all else, building it so that it's easier for you to shoot your characters and bounce them where you need them, because you need clear shots at your resources. Like, I still enjoyed it. It was a fun little break between the levels, but yeah, after a while it just became me moving boxes in and out. But the game does have very good progression to it. Like every good roguelite, you're always progressing something every run. You're always either gaining XP to level up your chosen character for some permanent stat upgrades, or you're finding blueprints to unlock buildings for your base, or even just a simple little checkmark telling you did in fact beat this level with this specific character. Does that do anything? Yes. It gives you a little checkmark over the character portrait, and one day I will have them all. The point is, nowhere never felt pointless. Even when I was going back to earlier levels, I always felt like I was moving forward in one way or another, even when I lost. And the game is very well paced. Runs usually take only about 15-ish minutes, making it a very easy game to pick up and just do another round or two. And even though you have to level up each character individually, unlocking that ability to bring 2 characters with you meant you could just grab one of your high level characters and pair them with the new guy and power level them fast. And it also meant you can complete a level and get credit for 2 characters at once. So as the game started introducing more and more characters and things looked like it'd get a little too unwieldy, like there'd be too much to complete, too many characters to level up, suddenly I could complete things twice as fast, in a way that made me feel more powerful and allowed for even crazier builds. BallxPit is an incredibly addictive evolution on the Vampire Survivors formula that manages to carve out a worthy place in a stacked year, and I suspect will continue to stand out well into the future.